The Balrog that Gandalf faced in the depths of Moria, known as Durin's Bane, is one of the most terrifying and enigmatic beings in Tolkien's legendarium. Although the Balrog only appears briefly in the Fellowship of the Ring, its impact on the story and on Middle-earth's history is profound. The moment Gandalf confronts this creature, the reader is forced to confront the terrifying reality that the world of Middle-earth is far older and darker than they might have imagined. To understand why this creature stands out as such a force of destruction and fear, it's crucial to look beyond the surface of its appearance and delve into its true identity, its origins, and how Tolkien's evolving vision transformed the Balrog into one of the most powerful beings in his universe. The specific Balrog we're examining, Durin's Bane, was not merely an isolated creature, but a being tied to an ancient past. Durin's Bane earned its fearsome name after slaying King Durin VI, the Dwarven King of Khazad-dûm, and driving the dwarves from their grandest and most cherished kingdom. This single act of destruction was enough to send shockwaves through the history of Middle-earth, leaving Khazad-dûm, which was once the greatest of all dwarven realms, abandoned and later known as Moria, the Black Pit. This creature's capacity to single-handedly annihilate a dwarven kingdom speaks volumes about its power, but it's the rich history and background of the Balrogs that further amplify the significance of Durin's Bane. In Tolkien's universe, Balrogs were not solitary monsters, but part of a broader class of beings. During the First Age, they served as powerful warriors of darkness, working under the command of Morgoth, the first Dark Lord and the greatest evil that ever existed in Middle-earth's history. The Balrogs fought in numerous battles, often changing the tide of wars with their presence, and their fearsome reputation grew as they became symbols of Morgoth's might. They wielded whips of flame and cloaked themselves in shadow, embodying a terrifying duality of fire and darkness that few could withstand. Their mere appearance on a battlefield was enough to cause armies to tremble, and this reputation of relentless destruction continued to echo through the ages, even as most of them were defeated or destroyed after Morgoth's downfall at the end of the First Age. It's essential to recognize that Durin's Bane was a survivor from that earlier age of conflict and darkness, a remnant of a time when Middle-earth was plagued by beings of immense power. While the other Balrogs were vanquished, Durin's Bane managed to hide itself deep beneath the misty mountains, lying dormant for thousands of years. This period of dormancy didn't diminish its power or ferocity. Instead, it added to its aura of terror. When the dwarves of Khazad-dûm delved too greedily and too deeply in their quest for Mithril, they unwittingly awakened this ancient evil. It emerged with all the fury of its former glory, driving the dwarves from their ancestral home and turning their greatest kingdom into a place of darkness and fear. The fact that this single Balrog could achieve such devastation speaks volumes about its immense strength and power. In understanding the origins and nature of the Balrogs, one must delve into the cosmology of Tolkien's world. Balrogs were originally part of the Maiar, a category of angelic beings who existed before the shaping of Middle-earth. These spirits were created by Eru Ilúvatar, the supreme deity, and served the Valar, who were the greater powers responsible for shaping the world. The Maiar were not all of the same strength or stature. They varied in power and purpose. Among them were beings as mighty as Sauron, who would later become the Dark Lord of Middle-earth, and as benevolent as Gandalf, who served as one of the Istari, the wizards sent to aid Middle-earth against the rising power of Sauron in the Third Age. The Balrogs, however, were among the most powerful of the Maiar, who fell under the influence of Morgoth, originally known as Melkor. Morgoth was the most powerful of the Valar. But his insatiable desire for power and domination led him to rebel against the other Valar and twist many of the Maiar to his service. The Balrogs were among these corrupted spirits, transformed from beings of light into creatures of shadow and flame. This transformation was not just physical, but spiritual. They embraced the destructive power that Morgoth represented, becoming agents of his will and instruments of chaos and destruction. Their power lay in their mastery of fire and darkness, embodying a duality that made them formidable enemies. They were not mindless beasts, but intelligent and malevolent entities capable of complex thought and strategy. This intelligence made them even more dangerous, as they could fight with a level of skill and cunning that far surpassed ordinary monsters. The Balrogs fall from grace, from servants of light to beings of pure malevolence, mirrored Morgoth's own rebellion and corruption. This transformation from divine spirits to demonic warriors of shadow is what gives the Balrogs their unique and terrifying nature. One of the most intriguing aspects of Tolkien's world-building is how his depiction of the Balrogs evolved over time. In the earliest drafts of his mythology, which later formed the basis of the Silmarillion, the Balrogs were depicted as numerous, forming great armies that fought in Morgoth's wars. In these early versions, they seemed to be shock troops, the heavy hitters of Morgoth's forces, numbering in the hundreds or even thousands. This portrayal made them incredibly dangerous on the battlefield, but somewhat less unique. They were powerful, but ultimately one of many within Morgoth's vast and terrifying legions. As Tolkien continued to refine his legendarium, his conception of the Balrogs underwent a significant transformation. Over time, he reduced their numbers drastically, changing their role from a legion of fearsome warriors to a small group of incredibly powerful and nearly mythical beings. By the time he completed The Lord of the Rings, there were thought to be only a handful of Balrogs left in existence, perhaps as few as 3 to 7. This evolution in Tolkien's portrayal altered the Balrogs' significance within his world dramatically. By making the Balrogs rare, Tolkien heightened their sense of power and mystery. Instead of being one of many, each surviving Balrog became a unique and almost legendary figure, embodying a piece of the ancient darkness that Morgoth had once wielded. This change not only increased their importance, but also intensified the fear they inspired. They were no longer just powerful servants of evil. They were relics of a bygone era when beings of unimaginable power roamed Middle-earth. Their rarity added to their mystique, suggesting that any encounter with a Balrog was not just dangerous, but an event of extraordinary significance, as it meant facing a being that had survived from an age-long thought to be over. This evolution also reflected Tolkien's broader themes of decay and loss, as the world of Middle-earth moved from an age of myth and legend into one where such beings were little more than memories. The Balrogs, especially Durin's Bane, represented the lingering shadow of that ancient evil, a reminder that the darkness of the past was never truly gone, but merely hidden. waiting for the right moment to emerge once more. This transformation in Tolkien's vision underscores the meticulous care he took in crafting his world, allowing the Balrog to transition from one of many warriors to a nearly unique embodiment of ancient power and terror. It is this evolution that makes the Balrog of Moria, Durin's Bane, stand out as one of the most powerful and terrifying creatures in Middle-earth. By reducing their numbers and increasing their individual significance, Tolkien turned Durin's Bane into a being of almost mythic proportions, a relic of a time when gods walked the earth and darkness held sway over the land. This evolution also adds depth to the encounter between Gandalf and the Balrog, emphasizing that this was not just a battle between a wizard and a monster, but a confrontation between two ancient and powerful beings, both of whom had survived the long march of history to stand once more in the halls of Khazad-dûm. Through this intricate process of world-building and storytelling, Tolkien ensured that the Balrog would be more than just a fearsome opponent. It would become a symbol of the ancient evils that still lurked in the shadows of Middle-earth. This careful construction of the Balrog's origins, evolution, and ultimate significance in the story contributes to the lasting impression it has left on readers and ensures its place as one of the most iconic and powerful beings in Tolkien's epic mythology. In order to fully comprehend the power and significance of Durin's Bane, it's essential to consider the role and might of another prominent Balrog, Gothmog, the Lord of the Balrogs, who dominated the battles of the First Age. Gothmog was one of the most formidable and feared servants of Morgoth, standing as the chief of all Balrogs and acting as a devastating force on the battlefield. To understand Durin's Bane, we must first recognize the legacy from which it descended, as Gothmog's deeds and power demonstrate the true extent of what Balrogs could achieve when unleashed upon the world. Gothmog's most infamous act was his slaying of Feanor, one of the most powerful and influential elves to have ever existed. Feanor, the creator of the Silmarils, 3 jewels that contain the pure light of the 2 trees of Valinor, was one of the greatest figures in elven history. His might, passion, and brilliance were unparalleled, and he led his people in a relentless pursuit against Morgoth to recover the Silmarils that had been stolen from him. However, despite his immense strength and determination, Feanor met his end at the hands of Gothmog during the Battle Under the Stars, or Dagor Nuin Gilayath. This was one of the earliest and most significant battles of the First Age, marking the arrival of the Noldor in Middle-earth. When Gothmog confronted Feanor, it was not a simple fight, but a clash between 2 titanic beings, each representing the pinnacle of power in their respective orders. The fact that Gothmog emerged victorious, mortally wounding Feanor, illustrates the Balrog's overwhelming strength and combat prowess. This act alone secured Gothmog's reputation as a force of terror and established the Balrogs as creatures that could bring even the mightiest of heroes to their knees. Gothmog's reign of terror did not end with Feanor's death. He continued to serve as Morgoth's most trusted lieutenant throughout the wars of the First Age, leading Balrogs and other creatures of darkness in battles against the elves and their allies. One of his most notable victories came during the Nirnaeth Arnoediad, the Battle of Unnumbered Tears, which was one of the most devastating and tragic conflicts in the history of Middle-earth. In this battle, Gothmog confronted and killed another of the greatest elven kings, Fingon, the High King of the Noldor. Fingon was a warrior of extraordinary courage and strength, and his loss was a devastating blow to the morale of the Free Peoples. Gothmog's Black Axe, an instrument of death and destruction, ended Fingon's life,
and this act cemented Gothmog's status as one of the most fearsome and unstoppable warriors in Morgoth's army.
It wasn't just the fact that Gothmog was capable of slaying such mighty figures that made him terrifying. It was also his intelligence and leadership. He wasn't merely a brute force on the battlefield. He was a cunning and strategic commander who understood how to direct the forces of darkness to achieve maximum devastation. He led the Balrogs with ruthless efficiency, and his mere presence was enough to inspire fear and panic in even the bravest hearts. As the leader of the Balrogs, Gothmog embodied the pinnacle of their power, serving as a stark reminder of what these beings were capable of when unleashed. Understanding Gothmog's prowess helps us to appreciate that Durin's Bane, while perhaps not as powerful as Gothmog, was still a creature forged from the same lineage of terror and destruction. Durin's Bane was a survivor of these ancient wars, and after Morgoth's defeat at the end of the First Age, it retreated into the deep places of the world, finding refuge beneath the misty mountains. For thousands of years, it remained hidden, lying dormant in the darkness, a relic of a bygone age when creatures of unimaginable power roamed Middle-earth. It was not until the dwarves of Khazad-dûm began to dig deeper in their search for Mithril that Durin's Bane was awakened. The dwarves' quest for wealth and treasure unknowingly disturbed this ancient evil, and the Balrog emerged from its long slumber with all the fury and hatred it had carried from the First Age. The awakening of Durin's Bane was catastrophic for the dwarves. It quickly became clear that they were no match for such a being of immense power. In a single brutal encounter, the Balrog killed King Durin VI, the ruler of Khazad-dûm, earning itself the name Durin's Bane. This act sent a wave of panic through the dwarven kingdom, and despite their efforts to fight back, they could not stand against the sheer power and ferocity of the Balrog. When Durin's son Ninmurs attempted to reclaim the kingdom, he too was slain by the creature. With their king dead and their kingdom overrun, the dwarves had no choice but to abandon Khazad-dûm, fleeing from the darkness that had claimed their ancestral home. This event marked the beginning of Moria's decline from a thriving dwarven metropolis to a dark and desolate ruin, inhabited only by the creatures of the deep. The exile of the dwarves from Moria marked a significant turning point in the history of Middle-earth. The fact that a single Balrog could drive out an entire kingdom, one that had stood for thousands of years as a symbol of dwarven strength and prosperity, is a testament to Durin's Bane's immense power. This act ensured that the Balrog would be forever remembered as one of the most fearsome creatures to walk Middle-earth, and its mere presence was enough to keep Moria abandoned for centuries. The dwarves' failure to reclaim their home was not due to lack of courage or strength, but rather the simple reality that they could not hope to match the power of a being that had once served as one of Morgoth's mightiest servants. Durin's Bane remained within the dark halls of Moria for centuries, a brooding shadow that haunted the empty kingdom. During this time, its reputation grew, and tales of the terror that dwelled in the depths of Moria spread throughout Middle-earth. This aura of fear and mystery added to its legend, making it a being that few dared to challenge. Even as centuries passed and the events of the First Age faded into myth, the Balrog remained a living reminder of the ancient evils that had once plagued the world. It stood as a symbol of the darkness that still lingered in hidden corners of Middle-earth, waiting for the right moment to emerge once more. When the Fellowship of the Ring entered Moria, they were unaware of the true extent of the danger that lurked within its depth. Although Gandalf had some inkling of the ancient evil that might be present, the rest of the Fellowship had little idea of the terror that awaited them. As they ventured deeper into the dark, empty halls, they encountered the remnants of the dwarves' last stand, the shattered remains of a once great kingdom. The eerie silence and sense of desolation weighed heavily on the Fellowship, but it wasn't until they reached the chamber of Mazarbul that they discovered the full extent of the darkness that had consumed Moria. The moment the Balrog began to stir, the atmosphere changed dramatically. The members of the Fellowship, who had already faced countless dangers on their journey, felt an overwhelming sense of dread. It was as if the very air had grown thick with malevolence, and even the bravest among them were gripped by fear. When the Balrog finally revealed itself, stepping out of the shadows like a living nightmare, its presence was enough to make even the most hardened warriors falter. The creature was enormous, towering over the Fellowship, its form wreathed in shadow and flame. Its eyes burned with an otherworldly light, and the crackling of its whip echoed through the halls like thunder. It was as if the darkness of Moria itself had come to life, and the very air seemed to tremble with its power. In this moment, it became clear that the Balrog was not just another enemy to be defeated. It was a force of nature, an embodiment of the ancient evil that had once threatened to consume the world. The Fellowship's fear was palpable, and even Aragorn and Legolas, who were among the mightiest warriors in Middle-earth, stood frozen in terror. This reaction illustrates the power and presence of the Balrog, as it was able to inspire such fear and awe in even the bravest of heroes. The confrontation between Gandalf and the Balrog on the bridge of Khazad-dûm was a battle unlike any other in The Lord of the Rings. Gandalf, one of the wisest and most powerful beings in Middle-earth, stood alone against this ancient enemy, and their clash was not just a struggle of strength and weapons, but a battle of wills and ancient power. The fact that Gandalf was willing to stand against such a creature speaks volumes about his courage and determination, but it also highlights the sheer danger posed by the Balrog. As the two beings faced each other, it was clear that this was not an ordinary fight. Both Gandalf and the Balrog were Maya, and their battle represented a clash of titanic forces, each one wielding power that could shape the fate of Middle-earth. As Gandalf raised his staff and proclaimed, "You cannot pass," he was not just confronting the Balrog, but all that it represented. The ensuing fight was a struggle between light and darkness, order and chaos, and it was clear that the outcome would have profound consequences for the world. The fact that Gandalf ultimately triumphed at the cost of his own life demonstrates both the incredible power of the Balrog and the strength and resolve needed to overcome such a force. It was a moment of sacrifice and heroism, one that ensured the Fellowship could continue their journey, but it also underscored the terrifying reality that ancient evils like the Balrog still had the power to wreak havoc on Middle-earth. The power of Durin's Bane is not just measured in its physical strength or mastery of fire and shadow, but in the fear and awe it inspired, even thousands of years after its creation. Its presence in Moria, and the devastating impact it had on the Dwarven Kingdom, stands as a testament to the enduring threat posed by the remnants of Morgoth's power. Even in a world where many of the great evils had been defeated or diminished, the Balrog remained a living reminder of an age when darkness ruled and beings of unimaginable power walked the earth. This encounter with Gandalf and the Fellowship transformed the Balrog from a mythical monster into a symbol of the ancient lurking dangers that still haunted Middle-earth, and it remains one of the most memorable and iconic moments in Tolkien's epic tale. The confrontation between Gandalf and the Balrog on the bridge of Khazad-dûm stands as one of the most epic and significant battles in the entire Lord of the Rings saga, not only for its dramatic intensity, but also for the deeper implications it carries regarding the ancient powers that still exist in Middle-earth. When Gandalf chose to face the Balrog, he knew that he was about to engage in a struggle that went far beyond a simple clash of weapons. This was a confrontation between two beings who were, at their core, manifestations of a power that had existed since the very beginning of time. Both Gandalf and the Balrog were Maya, spirits created in the earliest days of existence, and their encounter was not merely a physical battle, but a meeting of ancient forces, light against shadow, good against evil. From the moment Gandalf stood on the narrow bridge, blocking the Balrog's path and declaring, "You cannot pass," it was clear that this encounter would be a test of his resolve, strength, and power. The Balrog towered over him, its body wreathed in shadow and flame, radiating an aura of malevolent energy that filled the air with heat and darkness. Gandalf, in contrast, stood alone, armed with his staff and sword, appearing fragile and small in comparison to the immense power of the creature before him. But it was this very contrast that underscored Gandalf's true strength. He was not just a wizard, but a being of light, charged with the task of resisting the forces of darkness. The battle that ensued on the bridge was a breathtaking display of power. The Balrog lashed out with its flaming whip, striking with such force that it seemed to tear the air itself. Gandalf countered each attack, wielding his staff and sword with a skill and precision that belied his apparent frailty. Every blow exchanged between them sent shockwaves through the chamber, causing the stone beneath their feet to tremble and crack. It was as if the entire world was holding its breath, waiting to see which of these ancient beings would emerge victorious. As they struggled, Gandalf's voice echoed through the cavern, a defiant and unyielding cry against the darkness that threatened to overwhelm him. This was no ordinary skirmish. It was a battle of cosmic significance, a fight between two beings who had witnessed the birth of the world and now stood locked in a struggle that would decide the fate of those who followed them. In a final desperate act, Gandalf shattered the bridge beneath the Balrog's feet, sending it plunging into the abyss. However, even as it fell, the Balrog's whip lashed out one last time, wrapping around Gandalf and pulling him down into the darkness as well. This moment, captured in both the book and film adaptations, is one of the most iconic scenes in the entire trilogy. It serves as a stark reminder of the costs of heroism, of the sacrifices required to stand against such overwhelming evil. Gandalf's fall into the abyss wasn't just a loss for the Fellowship. It represented the loss of one of the greatest defenders of Middle-earth, a being who had fought against darkness for countless ages. But this was not the end of Gandalf's battle with the Balrog. Far from being defeated, the struggle continued for 10 days and nights, deep within the bowels of the earth and eventually to the peak of Xiraxagil, one of the highest summits in the Misty Mountains. The fact that this battle raged on for such an extended period speaks volumes about the power and resilience of both combatants. They fought through darkness and fire, through freezing cold and howling winds, in a conflict that transcended mere physical combat. Gandalf later described this battle as an encounter with fire and darkness itself, a confrontation that pushed him to the very limits of his power and endurance. It was here on the peak of Zirak-Zegil that Gandalf finally managed to defeat the Balrog, casting it down from the mountaintop and emerging victorious. Yet the victory came at a great cost. Gandalf's physical body was destroyed in the process, and he passed beyond the circles of the world. The significance of this battle extends beyond the mere physical defeat of the Balrog. It represents the triumph of light over darkness, of hope over despair, even in the face of overwhelming odds. Gandalf's willingness to sacrifice himself to defeat this ancient evil speaks to the enduring strength of the forces of good in Tolkien's world. His return as Gandalf the White, more powerful than before, symbolizes the idea that even in the darkest of times, there is always hope for renewal and redemption. The defeat of the Balrog marked a turning point not just for the Fellowship, but for the entire struggle against Sauron, showing that even the most formidable of enemies could be overcome with courage, strength, and an unwavering commitment to the light. In understanding the Balrog's power, it's crucial to compare it with the other beings that roamed Middle-earth. As a corrupted Maya, the Balrog existed on a level that far surpassed that of most mortals. The Maya, like Gandalf and Saruman, were spirits of immense power, and their abilities were far beyond the reach of ordinary men, elves, or dwarves. The fact that Durin's Bane could fight Gandalf to a standstill, forcing him to unleash his full strength and power, indicates that it was not just a formidable opponent. It was one of the most powerful entities still walking the world during the Third Age. To put this into perspective, consider that Gandalf was able to defeat creatures like trolls, wargs, and even orc chieftains with relative ease. Yet against the Balrog, he had to fight with every ounce of his strength, every bit of his wisdom and power to emerge victorious. This speaks to the Balrog's immense physical strength, as well as its mastery over fire and shadow. Its ability to manipulate these elements was far beyond anything that ordinary beings could hope to counter. The Balrog's mere presence was enough to instill fear and terror in even the bravest of souls, and it took one of the greatest heroes of Middle-earth to bring it down. In many ways, the Balrog represents a primal force of destruction, an embodiment of the chaos and darkness that Morgoth sought to unleash upon the world. It did not possess the same cunning or ambition as Sauron, nor did it seek to dominate or control others. Instead, it existed as a pure manifestation of ruin, a creature that destroyed simply because that was its nature. This made it even more terrifying, as it could not be reasoned with or bargained with. It was an elemental force, a relic of an age when such beings roamed freely across the land. This sense of raw, unbridled power is what makes the Balrog such a unique and memorable foe within Tolkien's mythology. It was a being that could challenge even the most powerful of Middle-earth's inhabitants, a creature whose strength and ferocity placed it on par with some of the greatest threats the world had ever known. The fact that it was still able to wreak havoc in the Third Age, long after most of its kind had been destroyed or faded into legend, is a testament to its enduring power and significance. Durin's Bane's defeat at Gandalf's hands was not just a moment of triumph for the Fellowship. It was a moment of profound importance for all of Middle-earth. By vanquishing this ancient evil, Gandalf proved that even the most formidable forces of darkness could be overcome. This act served as a beacon of hope for all those who stood against Sauron, showing that even in the face of overwhelming adversity,
there was still a chance for victory. It was a reminder that the light, no matter how faint, could still shine through the shadows, and that the forces of good would always find a way to endure. The Balrog's legacy extends far beyond its physical presence in the story. It stands as a symbol of the ancient evils that still lurked in the hidden corners of Middle-earth, a reminder that the darkness of the First Age had not been entirely vanquished. It represented the lingering power of Morgoth, an echo of the age when gods walked the earth and fought for dominion over the world. The fact that such a being could still inspire fear and awe, even thousands of years after its creation, speaks to the profound impact that these ancient forces had on the history of Middle-earth.
Gandalf's victory over the Balrog was more than just a physical defeat. It was a symbolic victory over the darkness that had plagued the world for so long. It demonstrated that even the mightiest evils could be overcome with courage, determination, and the willingness to make the ultimate sacrifice. In this sense, the Balrog's power lay not just in its physical strength or mastery of fire and shadow, but in the fear and awe it inspired, in the way it challenged the heroes of Middle-earth to rise above their own limitations and confront the darkness head-on. By the end of their confrontation, Gandalf emerged not only victorious, but transformed, reborn as Gandalf the White, a figure of even greater power and wisdom. This transformation symbolizes the idea that even in the face of death and despair, there is always the potential for renewal and growth. The Balrog, in its defeat, became a catalyst for Gandalf's metamorphosis, allowing him to return stronger than ever before and continue his mission to aid the free peoples of Middle-earth in their struggle against Sauron. In the end, the Balrog stands as one of the most unforgettable and iconic entities in Tolkien's legendarium, a creature that embodies the fear, chaos, and destruction that once threatened to consume the world. Its battle with Gandalf serves as a powerful reminder of the strength and resilience required to confront such darkness, and its defeat is a testament to the enduring power of hope, courage, and the light that refuses to be extinguished. Even in the depths of despair, in the shadowy halls of Moria, where darkness seemed to reign supreme, the Balrog's defeat shines as a beacon of triumph, a reminder that no matter how great the evil, it can always be overcome by those who are willing to stand against it.